Belfield Avenue, Philadelphia, PA. Telephone number 215-849-9112. We welcome you to the Hadith and Quran study class. The views and opinions of the studies and Hadith class may not be the views of the resident Imam Susaddin Muhammad. Thank you. That's good.
Assalamu alaikum, my beloved brothers and sisters. Shukran jazira. An Abu Umar radiallahu anhu qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam buniya al-Islam ala khamsi fashhadati an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadur Rasulullah wa iqamat salah wa ita zakat wa hajj wa saum Ramadan. The English translation, narrated Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Islam is based on 5. To testify that there is no God but God, and that Muhammad is his messenger, to stand for prayer, to pay zakat, to perform hajj, and to observe fasting. Al-Islam is based on that. Anything beyond that, you are not required to follow. What do I mean by that? When you look at the condition of Muslims in the world, you'll see that this building, which was constructed upon 5 bricks, has been neglected for other structures, meaning sectarianism. Hence, Muslims all over the world are at each other's throats. How does that affect us? Allah, in his infinite mercy, called us to Al-Islam and opened up our hearts, eyes, and minds for his message. However, the message that we have embraced is not based on these 5 principles. The message that we embrace is based on the political, social, economic, and cultural issues of the people in the Middle East, and in Africa, and in Asia. Hence, the Islam that we have embraced is one that is like a plant. If you have a plant, you water it, you feed it, it grows, it has fruit, but after a period of time, what happens? It reaches its life expectancy and dies. The Islam that you see practiced in the East, that's practiced in Africa, in Asia, it's an Islam that has already withered and died. What is my proof? Allah tells us in the Quran al-Kareem to unite all together and to hold on to his rope. Is that a fact? All the Muslims in the East and in Africa and in Asia holding on to the rope of Allah all together as one unit? Absolutely not. Therefore, the Islam that they have manufactured and that grown among them is an Islam that is decayed, that is sick, that is slowly dying, and other cultural expressions are being born again. Look at Pakistan. Pakistan is a perfect model of what I'm saying to you now. Not only are they having struggles with what they call jihadi, revolutionaries, whatever you want to call them, but they're having a problem with their democracy system. Benazir Bhutto, we all know what happened to her. We all know that General Musharraf / president, we know that his becoming a president was only through the pressure, but he still controlled the army as well. Now, one of those countries in the East are concerned about establishing what I just read to you, the 5 principles which constitutes Al-Islam. What I want to talk to you today is something that we need to focus on because we got our problems and our issues too. One of the problems is we have failed to comprehend what we are involved in. I'm telling you, our people, we don't see it. We don't see it. Proof of that is when you see a Muslim, he or she is supposed to have a certain expression on their face, one that reflects concern, one that is serious, but you can see pleasure as well, which is a serenity, because you know what you have is correct. You don't see that among our people. You see the same expressions on the Muslims as the non-Muslims, and that's a problem. Because when you see that expression the same expression from non-Muslims and Muslims on the same face, that means that they're functioning at the same level. Here it is, one has been promised paradise, and the other one has no idea what paradise is and don't even care. One knows about God and the other one doesn't. One says they follow Muhammad, and that in itself is supposed to give bliss to the heart. But, like I said, you look at them, you see the same expressions. What are expressions? Expressions manifest what's in the soul. Expressions manifest what's in the heart. Expressions manifest how a person feels. A Muslim should always be happy when it's time for prayer. A Muslim should always be happy when it's time for Ramadan. A Muslim should always be happy when it's time to interact with God. Because the Muslim's whole purpose for being is to acknowledge and serve God. Let me tell you something. One of the reasons why we as a people, and I'm dealing with our issues, I'm not talking about the other people because they got their own systems going and they're doing a lot better than us. One of the problems with Muslims is the object of prayer. Why hasn't prayer reached the heart? Can anybody tell me why prayer has not reached the heart of the African American, most African Americans? I'll tell you why. No. It's all about language. How many people in here are fluent in Arabic? How many people in here, when they're saying their salat in Arabic, know every word? How many people amongst our people know what they're saying when they're praying? Very few. Therefore, prayer is not doing what? The arrow is not hitting the target. Do you understand? The arrow is not hitting the target. And let me tell you something. Where in the Quran does it say salat must be said in Arabic? What ayat is that? What hadith says that salat must be said in Arabic? What hadith is that? Why do we say our prayers in Arabic? It's very important that we do say it. So don't leave here saying, Muhammad said we got to pray in Arabic. No, that's not what I'm saying. Everybody should learn to pray in Arabic. But let me tell you this. Whatever language you speak, learn your prayers in that first. I'll take your question in a minute. Let me finish. Learn to say in your language first. Why? Because Allah says in the Hadith Qudsi, the only part of your prayer that He hears is the one that you understand. Do you understand? Allah answers the prayers of the people who say what they understand what they're saying. Learn to say your prayers in English, if that's your language. If you're beginning to pray, learn it in English first so you'll know what you're saying. One of the reasons why we are disconnected from God is because we're saying our prayers in Arabic and it's not sinking into the heart, therefore it's not penetrating the soul. Therefore, what are we doing? We're doing the same thing that you would train a parrot to do in a cage. Recite, recite, recite. The parrot has no knowledge of what it's saying. It does not sink into its soul or its mind or whatever. Do you understand? In order for you to feel the benefits of prayer, you must know what you're saying. Understand? I'm not saying don't pray. I'm telling you, speak to God in a language that you know what you're saying. Yes, my brother.
Okay. That's what you're saying about making salat Arabic.
Yes.
Does it not say in the Quran, I've sent this Quran, this...
In Arabic.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, hold
yeah.
on, let me finish that.
Yeah.
Yeah. From what we understand from Hadith,
Mhm.
Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi
Yes.
wasallam always made salat. I mean, he always said Fatiha, of course.
Yeah.
And he would follow it with a surah or pieces of a surah,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So, I mean, therefore, we're supposed to follow what the Prophet followed.
Yes. Yes.
All right. And so far as not understanding,
Uh-huh.
I also recall reading somewhere along the line
Mhm.
that a lot of the Sahabas, radiallahu anhum, used to only approach each ayat at the most, I mean, each surah at the most 5 ayats or less at a time.
Yes.
And so they totally incorporate that to their
Yes.
So
Yeah.
therefore, you can, like, when you approach that, you can also preach that in your English, I mean, pardon me, I'm not no scholar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm just saying how I do things.
I think you and I are saying the same thing.
Yeah, I do too. Okay, all right.
I think we're agreeing on that. Let me say this, and it's good because it shows you're paying attention. Thank you. And we need that participation. What we have to do, we have to salvage the souls of our people and get them to understand what they're saying to God so that they can grow in Islam. Do you understand? The reason why everybody should pray in Arabic and learn the Arabic, you can go any mosque in the world and pray, and everybody's praying the same way. But the problem is, most people in their schools are learning the Arabic, and also they're learning what they're saying in their languages. Because we are people who embrace Islam, some of us vicariously, some of us stumbling upon it, therefore we don't have a structure in place to help us out. What we do have in place are those institutions that have been brought here from the Middle East or financed from the Middle East, and therefore we're towing their line. And that leads us to what? That Islam that is not based solely on the five, but it's an Islam that's based on Saudi political culture. You understand? Let me say this as well. You will never grow as an individual spiritually if you don't understand what you're saying. And remember, God says the only part of your prayer that you get credit for is what you understand. That's the main thing. And from that Hadith Qudsi, that tells us that we can say our prayers in whatever language we speak, because in order for your heart to grow, it must relate to God. The brother asked me why I don't lead prayer life. The reason why is because sometimes I get so wrapped up in it, I forget that people might be following me. Do you understand? And then therefore that could be a discomfort for whoever's waiting for me to do something. Another thing too, spare yourself the luxury, hear me good on this, spare yourself the luxury of quoting long surahs in your salah. Do you understand? First of all, you don't understand what you're saying unless you're speaking fluent Arabic, right? Second of all, your mind is going to wander, mine does, so I keep my surah short. The best part of the prayer for me is when, after I salam out, and then I'm relating my needs to God in dua. That is the most important part of the prayer. You understand? When you sit back, or when you're following somebody in prayer, when they're reciting Surah Baqarah, what is your mind on? And I've heard brothers attempt to recite Surah Baqarah in the salah. And you're sitting there, the first thing in your mind is, man, well, what's happening at home? You know, your mind drifts. Some of the companions, like Amr ibn Yasser was a great companion of the Prophet ﷺ. His father and mother were the first martyrs of Islam. They asked him about prayer, and he always says his shores, he keeps to the short swords because Satan enters his mind, meaning his mind starts to wander. There was one brother who in all the prayers he recited Surah Ikhlas on all the prayers. And one of the brothers complained to the Prophet and said, all he recites is Surah Ikhlas. So the Prophet said, why do you recite that? He said, because that's the one I love the most. It tells me about the oneness of God. And Muhammad said, that is a man of paradise. Keep your sword short, keep your duas long. Do you understand? Unless you are fluent in Arabic and you have that control where you can say long swords and not be distracted. Now, today I'm going to talk to you about attitude. One of the things that's missing in our people is we have an attitude about everything but the right thing. And it is the job of Muslims who have a voice among our ethnic group to take the message of Islam to our people so that we can get them what? Prepared? Yes. Yes. It's a job of an imam, a khatib, a sheikh, anybody who has any information about Islam to get people to focus upon the afterlife. To get people to see that the life of this world is truly a sport, a play, and an illusion. Your eternal life is the real life, and you'll find that out when you die. We constantly talk about death because a lot of us are not even focused upon it. You think you're going to live next 10, 30, 40, 50 years. Nobody takes into account that you might die when you leave here. One of the reasons why we record is because when we're dead and gone, maybe someone else can get use out of these things. But one thing I want you to understand is, when you study the history of Islam, Islamic civilization, you'll see that Islamic civilization, like that withered tree we discussed, it grows up it becomes the thing that has social cohesion. Everybody gets a fair deal. And then corruption seeps in. Corruption seeps in every single civilization that this world has ever produced and known. There's never been an angelic civilization that lasted for long. Why? Because the people who established it, that first or second and third generation, the people who follow them, who don't have to work for it, rule it like it's their own personal jewel. The same thing with the message of Al-Islam. The people who inherited it think, or it came through the Arab people, they think that Islam is their own personal jewel. Therefore, no man come unto the Father but through the sons of Ishmael. And that's the way they perceive things. And a lot of us has brought into that notion. Now, look at Islam in Spain. Islam in Spain was a very powerful empire for many, many years. For hundreds of years. They ruled Sicily and southern Italy. The Muslims went all the way towards France to take Islam all the way to the ends of the earth. That was the goal. But by the time that Muslim army got towards France, they were no longer fighting for God, for the liberation of the oppressed, or for the establishment of the Sunnah. They were fighting for what? Gold, silver, women. Do you understand? They were fighting for material things, and Allah was the farthest things from their mind. Therefore, Allah and His angelic hosts were withdrawn. It says in the Quran, when you fight for God, He will send 50,000 angels or more or less to support you. And that's what happened when they were fighting for God. But when they started fighting for bullion and riches and silk, the angelic help was withdrawn. Therefore, they met a man. His name was Charles Martel. Martel in French means hammer. Charles Martel hammered the Muslims behind towards France and sent them back to North Africa and Spain packing. And they had so much loot and gold on the way back. The last thing they thought about was jihad fi sabilillah, or jihad in the cause of God. So what happened to Muslim Spain? Muslim Spain became so corrupt, it was just like the other kings, that the people who were fighting against the Muslims were the ones that Allah seemed to give them the angelic help. When you study how the Christian kingdoms came back to finally chase the Muslims out of Spain, you start to see that just like Allah says in the Quran, He gives the kingdom to whom He will and takes it from whom He will. Therefore, Allah selects who will rule. I want to show you a picture. Anybody familiar with this? Has anybody ever seen this picture before? This picture is called The Golden Helmet. This is a classic painting, even though this is a print. This is by, I believe, Renoir painted this. I'm not really sure. But it's called The Golden Helmet, and you can see his helmet. I saw this picture in a flea market, and when I looked at it, I could not walk away. What do you see when you look at this picture? And I'm going to pass it around. What do you see? Look at the face. Look at the eyes. You know what you see? Will. You know what you see? Determination. You know what you see? I will not go down without a serious and long protracted fight. Do you understand? Pass this picture out. For me, that picture represents the adversary. Do you understand? While the Muslim rulers in Spain, while the Muslim rulers in the Islamic world were sitting back with their slave girls, with their hashish, with their wine, with their silks and satin and silvers, when the Muslims were sitting back living a life of luxury and comfort, the enemy was doing what? Sharpening their swords. Was doing what? Doing the military drills. Was doing what? Planning. Was doing what? Growing in determination. Was doing what? Refusing to be overcome.
Advancing technology.
And advancing in technology. Alhamdulillah. The technology of that time was in the superior armaments. Look at his helmet. The helmet was designed to endure what? The shock of a sword. And even the tossing of a spear or an arrow. While the Muslims was doing what? Laying back with their slave girls, laying back with their hashish and their illegal alcoholic drinks. Assalamu alaikum. Do you understand? The Muslims eventually lost what? Momentum. The peasants of the Muslims got tired of working to feed the rich. The peasants in the Islamic realm got tired of being enslaved, lashed, whipped, abused, and oppressed. So they begin to do what? Leave. And those rich folks, the upper classes, never took care of their own lands. When you hear the story of Yusuf Salahuddin ibn Ayyubi, which they call Saladin, I'm sure everybody saw that movie, Kingdom of Heaven. But what you don't know about that movie is that the Islamic world was in a position then to crush the Christian kingdoms. Here it is, those same Christians that chased, like that gentleman in that picture, that chased the Muslims out of Spain and chased them out of parts of North Africa and parts of the Middle East and conquered Jerusalem with slaughter and bloodshed of Muslim women and children. The Muslims could have defeated them at any time, but they didn't. Why? Because they were divided. Because they didn't subscribe to the principles of Islam that unite us. Because they didn't hold on to the rope of Islam altogether. In North Africa, the Al-Muwahideen were ruling. And that was the most powerful Islamic empire in Africa to this day. They did not help Saladin. They had the strongest naval fleet in the Mediterranean. But they did not want to help Saladin because Saladin did not acknowledge their leader as the Caliph of Islam. Saladin was in support of the Abbasids. And again, that all goes down to politics. So politics superseded religion. Now, Saladin finally got them to help them a little bit, and they did. And Saladin just barely liberated Jerusalem. The Muslims who were fighting with him were not really strong fighters. The Muslims who were fighting with him were people who, once they started seeing a reversal, that if the Christians came out and fought too hard, they left the field. But you don't hear about that. You don't hear about that. It was Saladin's political genius that got Jerusalem liberated. If Saladin would not have signed that truce, they would probably still have, actually they do got it. The Jews got it today. Do you understand? Muslims tend to not see the errors in al-Islam, not Islam per se, but in the Muslims themselves. Do you understand? If you study the king who fought, Richard the Lionhearted, if you study him, you'll see that this gentleman, he killed hundreds of Muslims with his bare hands in the battles. Why? Because he was like that gentleman. He had will, he had the ambition, he had the drive, and he was not to be overcome. He came from England, from Britain, to go down to fight the Muslims in Jerusalem. Do you understand? Yes, my brother.
Yes. For the benefit of the brothers that just came in, would you explain why we're passing this picture around, please?
Look at his eyes. I found that picture in a flea market. When you look at his eyes, you look at the expression on his face, look at the determination, the willpower, the desire to take back what he has lost. That, what you see in his eyes, look at Dick Cheney. Look at Bush. No, I'm serious. What you have, that picture is your enemy. That is your enemy who is prepared. I'm not saying Bush or Cheney are enemies. No, I understand. Please understand that. I'm saying that gentleman represents your enemy, and that enemy could be a black man, could be an Asian, could be a Chinese person. Anybody who wants to take what's yours, anybody who wants to keep you down, anybody who wants to rule over you. What I'm trying to get you to see is that your foe is determined and strong. They proved that what they did by chasing the Muslims who were in Spain for over 500 years out. The Muslims were in Sicily for over 500 years and they got chased out. The question is why? And the answer is in his face. The answer is in his face. And I'm saying today, I don't see that expression on your face. I don't see the desire to succeed on the faces of our people. I see peacefulness, I see calm, I see cunning, I see the desire to get over. I see the love of partying, of intoxicants. I see the love of keeping each other down. I see the fear of confronting the real enemy. Do you understand? That's fear. But you are Muslims who you are supposed to have that look. You're supposed to have a look similar to that. I got another picture. Now, who is this? Who is this?
Frederick Douglass.
Who is this? Look at his eyes. Look at his eyes. What do you see?
Determination.
You see the same look that that gentleman had. And guess what? If he did not have that same determination, that will, we would probably be still picking cotton. He was the one who was in Lincoln's ear. He was the one who was getting stoned in the street by the people who were pro-slavery. He was the one who was a slave himself. Whips on his back, right? Anybody read his book? Did you read about Covey, the nigger breaker? I did. Here, brother, pass this around. Did you read about Covey, the nigger breaker? They actually had an individual whose specialty was breaking uppity niggers. If there was a slave who didn't want to pick cotton fast enough or try to show any masculinity, or if his testosterone was flowing a little bit too much, they had professional nigger breakers who would come to a plantation and work on a slave. He would either break his spirit, and if he couldn't break his spirit, he went to the master, this nigger's no good. One of two things happened to a nigger whose spirit couldn't be broken. He was either executed on the spot or sent down to South Carolina in the rice swamps where he met certain death through malaria. Do you understand? Do you understand? Look at his eyes. So that determination, that desire to succeed is not limited to our adversary, it's in us too. But you don't see that look today on the face of the Muslims anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world you don't see that look of determination, of defiance, of willing to sacrifice everything for the success of what? Islam and the people. Got another picture. Who is this? Who is this? Look at his eyes. Look at his eyes. What do you see? Here, brother. You see the same look of determination, the same desire to see success. And let me tell you something. When an individual has that expression on their face, you know what it does to their people? When a man stands up like that and says, listen, I am going to take on the greatest power in the world for our success, to show you that power lies with God. There is no power or might or strength but with God. And if you read the Quran, God says he gives power to whom he will. So if Allah gives power to somebody over you, that's Allah's way of trying you. How will you respond? Will you sit back smiling, cajoling, and tap dancing? Or will you confront the adversary in my name? Not everybody was a nigger in those days. Not everybody was afraid in those days. You understand? But today the Muslims are afraid. Why? Because they're following an Islam that is foreign to us. They're following Islam that we cannot use. It will not help us at all. It will have you crying about the little Palestinian boy that might have got shot in the leg by an Israeli soldier. It will have you crying about the people who are living on the West Bank who don't have all the food that they need to eat. And your whole direction will be focused on what's going on over there. That problem can be solved. That problem can be solved if Hamas would say, all right, I'll recognize you. That problem can be solved if the Arabs, the Palestinians would say to Israel, we will recognize you. Therefore, a solution is on the wall. It's the stubbornness of the people who are in charge say, no, we're not going to recognize you. And that's their choice. I'm not going to say it's wrong. That's their choice. I'm saying that's not our affair because you know why? Eventually, Hamas Fatah, and all those organizations are going to sign some kind of deal with Israel, and all that oppression and slaughter is going to stop. But with you here, there's no such options on the table. You have to take it yourself. You have to take it yourself. I'm not talking about overthrow or nothing. I'm not seditious. I'm not stupid. But I do know that you people will not get your fair share if you don't make it yourself. I do know that what you expect to fall from the tree is not going to come unless you struggle and strive for it. I do know that Allah will not help you if you don't help yourself. The Muslims from foreign lands are not indigenous to this land. Don't you know, not only do they take advantage of the tax structure here to benefit their organizations, not only do they have money coming in from their homeland to support them, not only do they know how to take advantage of the opportunities here in America, they don't have any of the worries that you have. And if you sleep in a warm house at night, and if your belly is full, that does not make you saved. If your neighbor does not have the same thing. Remember the hadiths tells us we want for our Muslim brothers and sisters what we want for ourselves. So if I'm full at night and he's hungry, there's a problem there. And it's not just Muslim, it's human beings. If I'm full and there's a hungry man or woman or child walking down the street, I am obligated to fill that child or person's stomach. I am obligated to offer what God has given me. So it's not about saving Muslims for al-Islam. It's about reaching humanity. Again, where is that expression on the face of our people? Where is that desire to succeed on the face of our people? Where is it? It's non-existent in most of us. Yes, my brother.
Yes, brother. Basically, state what you're saying, to go back, is that same person, like you said, what you want for your brother, what you want for yourself, if that person there is hungry, they don't get to the point where he may even have to come in your house and take what you have.
It's already happening. It's already happening.
Avoid that.
It's already happening.
Alhamdulillah.
Muslims among our people are the silent majority. Muslims among our people do not invite people to do good and try to prevent them from doing evil. Like God says, you are the best community of mankind because of that one principle alone. Two brothers were fighting in front of my house. I told you the story before, I got to say it again. One of them broke a bottle and was getting ready to try to slash the guy. When I stepped in between them, I risked getting slashed myself. And everybody was saying, get out of there, stupid. But they were stupid because you know why? They were content to watch two black men kill themselves in the street like dogs. They were content to sit back and let the Asian people who were watching and laughing be entertained like in some gladiator spectacle in Rome. Every African American person should try to bring peace between African Americans and trust in God. I didn't get slashed. I didn't get spit on or attacked. I was the voice of reason. And both of my good brothers listened to me, and the bottle was dropped. And peace was made. And peace was made. Not because of me, but because of God. The test was for me. Don't you see that? The test was for me. Allah arranged that spectacle to see what I would do. Mr. High and Mighty, reading the Quran and bowing every day. Is that all you're going to do? Let me test your heart. Here's two human beings about to kill each other. And you say you believe in me. What are you going to do? Praise be to God, I made the right choice. I started to walk away. Because you know what? When I saw the sharp edges of that bottle, I was afraid. Who wants to get gashed with a bottle? Who wants to get gashed? Certainly not I. But praise be to God, I felt my love for God and my brothers. I needed to make peace if I could. You understand? How many of us are doing that? I know there is some of us, but most of us don't do that. How many of us see our brothers and sisters in a bad situation and don't do anything at all? You happy to see the brothers and sisters out there using drugs? You happy to see the prostitutes? You happy to see those little kids running around with no warm clothes on when it's cold? You happy to know that there's a child on the street that ain't got no clothes to wear, no school books? But we're all happy and content. We come to the mosque, we do our little functions, and then we go home and close the door. And that is not the way of Muhammad, peace be upon him. Muhammad, when he was preaching, his people were about action. They endured suffering, they endured pain, humiliation, but they succeeded because ultimately the return is to God. The return is to God. Let me tell you something. That brother right there, I knew him since he was like 6 years old. We were gangsters together since we were kids. And we committed a lot of crimes. We did a lot of bad things. I remember in 1974, there was a lot of people trying to kill me in the city back that time. This good brother, he was so close to me. They did a recording on a cassette saying, they used to call me Mousy back in the day. And Mousy, we want you to hear what we're going to say when you die. Everybody knew I was going to die. I thought I was going to die. And he played it, right? He played that recording, and I was so touched. I said, thank you, man. But we didn't have a look for the future. We didn't see the future. We didn't see it. He seen me one night confront a guy with 3 guys that had guns, right? And all I had was a stick. I'm here, 2 of them are dead. He saw somebody try to burn me with a Molotov cocktail, right? I'm here, they're dead. What does that prove? That proves that Allah decides. Allah decides all affairs. I thought I was going to die, but I'm here today. 30-something years later, and he's here. Praise be to Allah. What does that mean? That means that it's time for us. Allah saved us for a purpose, to activate our community and to work for the betterment of Al-Islam and our people. You can't embrace Islam and leave your people behind. You can't do that. So we go back to the old neighborhood and try to help people. If you look at this picture, you'll see me from 1974. Here. This was at a gang meeting when my brothers, two men were murdered. One on our side, one on the other side. And praise be to Allah, we were able to come to them. But me and him were on it. You probably won't find me, but you'll see him. He got that big, fun-looking hat on his head. I interject that only so that you see the power of God. If it was not for that, I would not have mentioned it. Do you understand? In other words, God has a purpose and a plan for us that we don't often see. We don't often see it. But 30-something years later, we're here in the masjid trying to get people to come back to God. Do you understand? Praise be to Allah, we are here. I see Brother Imam Jamil's here, so we're going to conclude our talk. I hope that something was gained from it. But I want you to understand something. When you walk away from the mosque today, understand that you must come back next week. Understand that we must begin to take this to the next level. We have to organize. The mosque has to be something more than the place where you go to make prayer. The mosque is supposed to be a place where you go to make plans. Where you make plans. Do you understand? The mosque is a place where you go to get your strategy together and you take it out to society. If we are just coming here to sit here and talk and feel good, that gentleman in that picture is always going to rule. He's always going to rule. Do you understand? Any questions before we begin Islamic Focus? Yes, my brother.
Yeah. I heard you mention the Inquisition, the fall of Spain.
Yes.
Yeah, when you were saying that it was the fall of the Muslims, it was considered as by the church.
Yeah, but they were supposed to.
Yeah.
They were trying to get their land. They were trying to get their lands back. You ever heard of the city of Valencia? Valencia was the last city to fall. You know why it fell? Because the Amir, the king of the Muslims, his name was Abu Abdullah. They called him Abu Abdil in the books. You know what he did? He made a secret deal with the Catholics. I will join you if you spare me, let me keep my riches. I'll open the gates and see that you have no resistance. And they said, yeah. Abu Abdil, who took the Christian name Vincent, opened the gates of Valencia for the Christians to come in and slaughter the Muslims. Do you see? Abu Abdullah was not a Muslim. He was a ruler, an opportunist, who used Islam to keep his people stupid. We cannot afford to allow Islam to keep us stupid, because stupidity and Islam don't go together. But what we have to do, I said and I'll say it again, you must break your connection to the Arabs. You must break your connection to the Pakistanis, the Indians, I don't care where they're from, the Africans. Break your slavish connection to them and establish your own. What do you sit around waiting for? They don't like you. They don't care about you. Because you have no genealogical connection to them. Go to one of these Africans who are selling their wares, their incense and musk oils, and talk to them and see if you can get a deal. Believe me, in their eyes, you are niggers. You are niggers in the eyes of everybody in the world today, except us, even though some of us call each other niggers. Yes, my brother.
You gotta be very careful. Because, I mean, listen.
Go ahead.
We know Muslims is somebody that's submissive to Los Mandala, right?
Yes, sir, brother.
I mean, you gotta be very careful what you're saying there, man.
I am.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you can't.
Why do I say it?
You cannot generalize everything.
Why do I say it?
You cannot generalize.
Okay, but let me ask you a question. Why do I say it?
Potential.
No, listen. No, listen. Let me say something. Please, whatever happens between us, let us not walk away angry. No, listen. You might be African. Okay, that's alhamdulillah. But guess what? I'm African too, but only my ancestors didn't get away. Then, do you understand? Therefore, listen to me. The experience that my people had to go through in South Carolina and Virginia and Texas, and which they're still going through today, the people in Africa who didn't get caught don't know what we experienced. You don't know about the psychological damage, and I'm not saying you are from Africa, but to take your position you must be. But you don't know about the psychological damage that we had to go through. They made us feel like we were less than animals because we were treated that way. We were not allowed education. We were not allowed a decent diet. We were not allowed wages. We were brutalized. We were whipped. We were murdered. You know why I'm light-skinned? Because somewhere down the line, a European got with an ancestor of mine. Do you understand? Let me finish. What I'm trying to get you to understand is our situation is unique. Our situation is different. I'm not saying the Asians and the Africans are not my brothers. I'm saying that their homeland is not here. I'm saying that when they go back to Africa with the money that they gathered here, they have a family waiting. And let me give you another example. I was talking to an African Muslim. Listen to this. And I was reading in a magazine about a slave that some Africans had. They had a cable on his leg and had him chained to a pole. Because I'm a descendant of slaves, I hate that kind of stuff. It rubs me the wrong way. So I'm talking about slavery to this African brother, right? He's a Fulani. And I'm saying to him, yeah, slavery this, slavery that. I said, do you own slaves? He said, yes, I have two. I said, alhamdulillah. You see, it's a different setup. It's a different setup. When we hear the term or word slavery, it affects us different than anybody else. Why? Because we experience it. See, people who weren't descendants of slavery don't know how it was back then. Don't know how it was when the Europeans came and snatched the man out and hung him.
Hey, pardon me, okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Pardon me.
Sure.
Same way you were talking about short swords. That's
Sure.
why how my mind is with the
Alhamdulillah.
Okay,
And it's appreciated.
My mind has wandered off now.
Oh, come on back, brother.
Still, I'm gonna get back
Come
to
on
the
back,
point I was trying to make to you.
Yeah, let them talk, brother.
My
Let them
point
talk.
is this right here. The sincerity
Yeah.
in my heart.
Yes.
The criteria that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in my heart
Yes.
does not allow me to sit there and stereotype, because that's exactly what you're doing.
Okay, alhamdulillah.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not.
Where are you from?
I'm here. I'm from right here.
You was born here?
21st Night, when you talk about gambling.
Alhamdulillah. I mean, we probably fought each other. We're fighting right now. Nah, just kidding. But just kidding. No, listen. Okay, so you're not from Africa. You're one of us, right?
Evidently, my family didn't get away either, right?
No, that's good, because see, now you and I can talk to you better. And it's, brother, just give me 1 second with him, then you can speak, okay?
I mean,
See, the thing is, no, listen to this.
Part of the sarcasm, you know what I mean?
But it's okay.
Dig this. I want
Because you know something?
I want to give you 10 and I only get 2.
No, listen.
Okay, all right. No.
I am so glad you're here. You can say whatever you want, right?
To me,
This is an open forum.
No, but seriously.
Thank you.
To me, it's very simple.
Yeah.
I mean, and just to get back, and I remember reading something on the back of some book where the Prophet Muhammad
Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam
is telling people that even if the Ethiopians
Yeah.
everybody has to listen.
But they don't.
No, guess what?
But they don't.
See, like we got a
Yeah.
problem with saying, if I turn this in my heart, the lost man
Yeah.
God is granted
Yeah.
in my being,
Yeah.
that we all have,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I understand, brother. Listen, I understand you.
I know it's
I'm
right
feeling you. I'm feeling you.
And I understand what you're saying about being skeptical and maybe cautious about interacting with some people.
I didn't say that.
But you're not going to like.
That's not what I said.
Come on now.
That's not what I said. I said break our attachment. What that means is they can't possibly be our leaders. We can't possibly continue to follow them. See, listen. No, listen. The part, see, what you're
I
doing.
don't follow it. Right about now, this conversation is moving. I don't follow it.
Okay, I don't know. But I want to speak because, you opened up something that's very important.
But I just want to be a stereotype.
Okay.
That's exactly what you were doing.
Okay.
You generalize.
Can I finish?
Certainly.
Okay. I appreciate your opinion, and it's needed. And Allah had him say that because we need to cover all the bases. No matter what happens today, I hope you don't think that I will have anything against you. I love you more because you spoke up. That's what we need. But let me finish. And then my brother must talk. Let me finish. The thing is this. Don't take this wrong. Don't take this wrong. They have so many defenders among us through their books, through their stuff they publish. We're so ready to defend them against ourselves. We fail to see that we have nothing. Just last week, 2 weeks ago, 2 masjids in our community closed down for lack of funding. Right? Is that true?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, what we have to do is, we have to come among ourselves, and you're going to talk about, I promise. We got to come among ourselves, and this is what I always say. We have to go through the Quran and the Sunnah, the Hadiths, all of them, not just the ones the Arabs pick. And we have to pick out what we need for our situation here, and what we can't need or use, put it on the side. You understand? We have to come to a consensus among us. One man can't make the decision. It has to be a group effort of what we can use for our situation to better ourselves. Because I'm going to tell you something, whether you know it or not, God chose you for his message. You are the people that he talked about in the Quran, that when he says, I'm going to bring about a people who will love me, if you blow the trust, and they all blew it. So he created us. Slavery was actually a blessing because it brought about a people who had no genealogical connection to anybody else except God. God liberated you from slavery, but he also allowed you to go through it. It was his decree. Now we have to ante up. Now we got to pay up and assume the responsibility of taking the Quran and the Sunnah back to the world without any sectarian nonsense attached to it. Because they're so going into sectarianism, go to Iraq and say you're a Sunni in Baghdad and see what happens. Go to Afghanistan and say you're a Shia. Go to Pakistan and say you're a Shia. They're all screwed up over there. We can straighten it out. But do it for this reason alone. Men probably won't come here to sit with you niggas. Men probably won't come here to rub elbows with you niggas. Where are they? But guess what? There's Muslim women in the so-called Islamic world who need you. Who need you. Because they're over there being unallowed to do what? Education. The things that you have, they don't have. You can't drive a car in Saudi Arabia if you're a woman. You can't vote. You can't come outside without a burqa over your head in Afghanistan. Muslim women in Iran, the chief mode of death in suicide, and suicide is high in the so-called Islamic world among women. Do you know what they're doing? They're taking gasoline, dousing themselves and setting themselves on fire for the misery which they are suffering at the hands of their men. We have to liberate them too. But first we got to organize among ourselves. Set this thing up among ourselves. Get it strong. and say, you want salvation, you want to be free? Come here. Come sit with us where women are free. Free. Come sit with us where men are free. Nobody in here will tell you how to fold your arms in prayer in this mosque. Nobody here will tell you what you can and can't do in this mosque. And that's because it's governed, owned, and operated by our people. There's no trace of Arab influence, touch, or tendency in this mosque. This is the first mosque. And we're going to take this concept to the streets. And guess what? The Arabs can join us. They can't lead us. The Pakistanis can join us. They can't lead us. The Iranians can come, but they can't lead us. No foreigner will lead us in Islam here. My brother. Yes, my brother. You can actually come up here because I'm done. When he talks, if there's no more comments, we must begin Islamic focus.
Because you cut me off.
I'm sorry, my brother. I apologize. Do you want to come up when he's done?
I can stand right here.
Talk to the mic, please.
One of the points that I was making is that you tried to make concerning the decline of Islam in Spain and in Portugal and during that region was because of the Catholic Church
Yes.
and the doctrines that they took
Absolutely.
out of
Absolutely.
the Quran and out of the Injil and connected with certain Jews to
Yes.
bring that down, bring about the fall
Yes.
of that dynasty when he sent
Yes.
King Ferdinand and Queen Isabel before the advent of Columbus.
Absolutely.
That's one point that I wanted
Yes.
that I heard you make. The other point was that the picture that you had there was not Renoir.
I wasn't sure.
No.
Thank you.
It's Renault.
Thank you, brother.
It's okay. They can hear my voice. It's
Thank
Renault. Another point that I just want to make, since I'm a scholar in that
Oh,
is the situation in
You're
Israel.
a scholar of what? Because you have to talk now so the camera can pick you up.
It's okay. I don't like
What are you a scholar in?
photographed anyway. The point in the Middle East
Yes.
is unique. It's biblical in proportion, ecclesiastical in nature. And when you were saying that the Hamas and,
Yes.
and the other groups, and yes, I was saying that
There you go.
that the situation in the Middle East is not only biblical, it's ecclesiastical, and it's a problem not for man, but it is a problem for the Almighty, because Allah was before Muhammad, He was before Jesus, He was before Abraham, before all the prophets. He was there, and He had that information. And when you look through scriptures and all throughout the biblical portions, you'll see that Jerusalem is a unique situation. It's not a question of someone signing it.
Sure.
It's a question of coming down through the ages,
Yeah.
what the Almighty had and His prophets had predicted for that situation, because the people that you're calling Jews are not really Jews. When you look in the book of Revelation,
You speak a little louder because this is very interesting and we need to get every
In the
word.
book of Revelation, you'll see that in Revelation 3 and certain portions of the revelation of the Bible, it will tell you who they are. These are Nicolaitans, which is...
Let me stop you for 1 minute for the sake of time. How does that benefit us?
It benefits us in a lot of ways.
No, I'm saying us, our people.
Us in a lot of ways, because for one thing, you're saying, and I came through what
Yeah.
they call the first resurrection back
Yeah,
in
me too.
Back in the 70s with Elijah Muhammad
Yes.
and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad
Yes.
and his philosophies and a lot of the things that were said
Yes.
was psychology to get us through the hard times. But it wasn't a solid foundation fact that we're black people and we should be called black people, and this notion of the black man or black, and it's never been described in scriptures or anything as a black man calling certain people black men or putting us all together. Another thing is that we were all not slaves over here.
True.
Some of us-
Some of us held slaves too.
That's the
And can contribute to the problem. But let me just say this.
The biggest problem
Let me
is
just say
that, one moment, because you cut me off before. The
Yeah.
biggest problem is that what happened was they brought slaves over here and mixed them with the original people in order to conquer everybody. So everybody don't look like Africans, Falalis, or people from all over Africa, and our skin tones were different. You know, all of us weren't slaves.
For the sake of time, can you kind of close it out?
Okay, yeah, like you did. I'm gonna close it out gradually, but I'm gonna give you the information that the things that I disagreed on.
Sure.
And
You and I need to sit down and talk.
yeah, but one of the points that I disagreed on was the fact that you were saying that, that they will eventually come to, peace will come to the Middle East through the through the signing of documents by the
No, I was talking
Israelis.
about the Palestinian issue, not the Middle East.
The Palestinian issue.
Yeah, but not the Middle East.
Which is causing
That's
a
a
lot
whole
of the
big-
problems. Which is causing a lot of problems.
Yeah.
You say it will eventually come through the signing of a document. And
I have to confess to you, and then let them talk. I don't really care about the Middle East. To tell you that I do, I would be lying to you. Their problem is fixable, and that's their deal. Ours is a different thing. But please.
It's not, because it's
Okay.
tied into this. It's tied into this war that we have over here.
Okay.
And it's
Okay.
tied into the whole world problem
All right, but listen.
in Islam. That's
Okay.
what I'm saying.
Okay.
And I'll let him speak.
Thank you, brother. Walaikum salam.
First, I'd like to greet everybody with the peace and blessings of the Lord. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum
My name is
salam.
Muhammad Khalifa from Mosque number 12. What I'm here to elaborate on, what I heard this gentleman speak about the Africans that's here in the United States. The reason I'm directing my comment to the gentleman here and what he was saying. I'm a veteran of the Vietnam War. When I left Vietnam, I got stationed in North Africa, Morocco. And I noticed the difference because you're black over there. You will get assassinated on the streets in Nigeria faster than you would get killed on the street over here. Not because of the color of your skin. It's because the main purpose of what they're taught. Like, you can get two Muslims together. You can get two brothers together, two sisters together. Not because you're black. Because you're European, you're from the United States, and that's what they're taught and that's what they're bred. He was speaking to you, but you was getting offended, and what I'm seeing here, when you was getting offended, you was defending yourself about the African brother. It wasn't about that. It's just what they're taught. It's just the same thing. If you don't teach what's in your home, you can't take it outside. So they come here in the United States, that's what they're taught in their home. They're not going to bring what they're taught to the surroundings amongst their brothers. We're not recognized as their brothers. We're not. That's why you can't get a deal. It's nothing that you don't have to debate with your brother about another brother. Your brother can be sold out like the slave mentality. But what I was saying, because I expect...
Assalamu alaikum, and welcome again to another segment of El Islam in Focus from an African American perspective. My name is Imam Jamil Abdullah. I will be your moderator and your host for today. I'd like to welcome my guests, my distinguished guests, for taking out time from their busy schedule to entertain your questions. And inshallah, if it pleases Almighty God, we'll have a wonderful, wonderful day. Our topic today will be identity crisis. And as you know, we as a people, African Americans, or whatever we choose to call ourselves, black people, here in America, we have a serious, serious identity problem. We have become so conditioned to be like other people that we ourselves don't know who we are and what we want to be, inshallah. So I'm going to ask my first question to Brother Jamal. If you can tell us, how do you feel? Do you think we have an identity crisis problem?
Well, in all actuality, when you speak about identity crisis, that comes down to, that's the majority of the people. I mean, if you was to go around and ask somebody.
Okay, we're talking about us.
All right, I'm talking about
African Americans. Okay.
Because unfortunately, we are like the majority of the people.
Right.
You
Okay.
know? But, I mean, if you just ask a brother or sister in the street, what you here for? I mean, you come with all kind of crazy things. Be a teacher, be a basketball, football. But, I mean, to me, it's easy. At least, I mean, the whole thing is simple. To me, it's, why me call to Jannah, why not, we all just here, all spent out of the Quran. We're here to worship Him. That's the reason
So now what you just said, for our audience that may not be familiar with the translation, can you translate that?
Yes, the Creator, Allah God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us in the Quran, I mean, He gives us the purpose. You know, when you say identity crisis, He gives us your purpose, which is to worship God. I mean, this is just for the test.
Okay. Brother O'Shea?
Yes, we have an identity crisis because you find that we as African American people, we strive to be everybody but ourselves. We have our own different culture, our own different background, and if we come to the table with a law in mind, regardless of where you come from, if you have to bring your fried chicken, your macaroni and cheese, the Asian brings his shrimp fried rice or whatever he cooks, and we as Africans, we have all kinds. So this is a big melting pot for the purpose of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we still have our own identity, just like we have our own unique finger. Nothing has ever been duplicated.
Brother Muhammad,
Well,
what is our identity?
And our identity is a structure of the surrounding culture that we live in today. The society is falling because we don't have a foundation to stand properly on. That's why we're so found to be reluctant to be this or be that or copy this. There's no foundation in the homestead first to make somebody or to get the other Europeans to recognize who we really naturally are. That's where the problem lies. So the first fad or trend that comes out that takes you that brings you back to a slave mentality, that's what causes the unbalanced structure.
Do you agree with that, Sunni?
Yes, sir. I'm assuming when we talk about identity, I think the identity boils down to what you said, culture. And as long as we lost touch with our own culture, that's what it appears to me.
Now, I want to ask you a question, Brother Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
No, Brother Jamal. Why do you think we as a people are so lazy? Particularly the men. If you look at our neighborhood, it shows we're real lazy. We're non-productive. We're not doing anything to salvage our community. Why are we like that?
You know something? You got me, I'm shooting in the dark, okay? I'm going to run back on slavery time myself, okay? And I guess the brothers see that all that labor they put in helping this country or the white man or however you want to put it, they never benefit, you know what I mean? So I guess, that's how the brothers have always felt. All the labor I put into this, and I never benefit.
Do you believe that, O'Shea?
No, I can't really accept that because...
No, let me finish.
Okay, brother.
I said, do you believe that, or do you think that's just a cop-out?
It's a cop-out because we have become so complacent in our own comfort zone that once we go home or come home from work, we don't want to step outside our door. We're not concerned about our neighbor. Sometimes we're not even concerned about what's going on in your household. So when you come home and your wife addresses you with certain issues, you're not even prepared to even handle it. First of all, the man has to go to God. Once he goes to God, God will guide him for the struggle. And it's step by step. So we learn everything in stages, just like a baby doesn't come out of the womb walking or eating meat. The baby's trained to do certain things even around the house. The same thing with our environment. You could be a grown man, but you still can be a baby within your own neighborhood. Because a baby won't pick up for himself.
Right. And Brother Muhammad, why are we so lazy?
Terminology, lazy.
Non-productive.
Non-productive.
Won't take care of your family.
Correct.
Won't clean your neighborhood. Don't give a damn about nothing.
Because we've been beaten down so mentally challenged. That's why we don't have anything. You take, for instance, you take one strong black man in the neighborhood and to try to bring productive to the society, and he'll be shunned on. He's a fool. That nigga crazy. You gonna get us all killed. There's no unity. I just left Los Angeles, and I seen, although it was an unbalanced thing with the gang members, their unity is so strong, brother. I'm sitting here crying. I've never seen nothing like that in my entire life. Their unity. Their unity.
Let me ask you a question, and just in rebuttal to that. You say their unity is strong, but yet they're killing each other.
I understand.
Is that real unity?
We're not talking about what they're doing with it.
No,
We're talking about the unity amongst.
What I'm asking you, and I'm asking you a question.
Yes, sir.
Is that real unity?
It depends on the fast of what you want to.
Okay, Sunni, would you consider that real unity? You see people working together, but yet they're killing each other. Is that unity, or I'm just
Yeah, it's
asking.
unity because it's all over the world, but I'm just saying.
We're not talking about over the world.
Right, we're
We're
talking about right here.
amongst us.
I understand.
Okay, let's bring it home then.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Is that real unity? If they're being productive in their society, but still killing each other amongst themselves, no, I wouldn't consider that unity. Me personally, I wouldn't consider that real unity.
What would you consider it? Welcome back to El Islam in Focus. And I just wanted to continue our question. I'm going to ask you, Brother Ushir, why are we so lazy?
Okay, well, you asked me that question.
Oh, I asked you that?
Yeah.
Well, okay. I'm glad you said, but let me ask you another question. Now, I heard my brother say that, he said that there's real unity. He's seen a lot of unity when he was in California.
Yes, sir.
But yet, in the same process, they are known for killing each other, and the abundance of crime is so high down there. Do you consider that real unity?
Yeah, that's unity, real negative unity. Okay? If you want unity in a positive sense, let's help Miss Annie when she gets her Social Security check. Walk her to the store, help her across the street. Not sit back with a group of people or your group of your boys and say, well, we're going to stick her up. We're going to take her pocket. We're going to go in her house while she goes to the bank to cash her Social Security check. Oh, you want real unity? Let's out to get a broom and let's clean up our neighborhood. Let's do something, let's straighten up. Maybe Mr. Jones, he had a heart attack last week and his house is falling down. Maybe we can build a fence around him or look after him, okay? Yeah, that's positive unity. That negative unity, can't agree with that.
So, Brother Jamal, I want to ask you, now, do you think that slavery has done a psychological effect on us? It causes us to act the way we act today? You believe we're still suffering from it?
Well, there's no doubt in my mind about that. I mean, you can see, matter of fact, the worst part about it is right now, this conversation we're having about identity. As a direct result of slavery, we have yet to find, the majority of us, our identity. You know what I mean? Everything's nouveau. What's the fad for the day? Who am I today? Am I Britney? You know what I mean? No, excuse me.
I hope you're not with that. Let me go on.
No, of course. I mean, it's quite obvious, It's a lot of the madness, a lot of this unified madness we see out here, it's a direct result of slavery.
Right. Brother Muhammad, can you comment on that?
Yes, sir. What I'm saying, they do have a positive and a negative side of everything. But when I was saying the unity, the African American down there, they own the majority of the businesses there. I seen the Sunni community and the FOI community. They just focusing on. We're not just talking about the negative things there, the positive things. But I see if we get that kind of unity here, I think it really would spread. But I haven't seen that level of unity here on the East Coast. I just haven't seen it yet.
Right. So now, Sunni, what can we do to have that kind of unity, like our brother was talking about, here in Philadelphia?
First, we have to find a real man. First, we have to step up to the plate as men once again. That's first.
Yeah, I agree.
Like everything that we're talking about here, this is written in the Quran where times and everything will change, even the thing. Let's say you would change yourself from like the weak from your weak to your strong from. All the stuff being seen right now, and where we at, the men are really weak. The sisters are starving, the kids are starving, and the community is starving. Correct?
Brother Oshie, I want to ask you a question. Do you believe that since we become Muslim, that we've gotten even more lazier than what we were prior to being Muslim?
We've gotten lazy. We've got placed, like I said, our own comfort zones.
Oh, man.
Coming out of the Nation of Islam many years ago, the first thing that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us was do for self. And there's nothing wrong with doing for self. But first you've got to work with God to be able to do for self. Once you begin to give yourself over to God, then you're able to do for self and do for others. Right? So we need that back. We need that back different facets. Okay? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was a great, great teacher. May Allah Ta'ala grant him paradise for forgiving of his sins. But we still...
Let me ask you a question. I hear you speak of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Brother Muhammad or Jamal, can you tell who is he? Who was he?
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was just the human being that was sent down from Allah to break the slave mentality of his own people. Just when I say own people, we were so mentally whipped under the slave mentality. It's just a reflection of what's going on today. These killing, drugs, that's all active all over the world. We have our own problems, but like Elijah Muhammad said, to do for yourself. We don't need the European schools. We don't need the European jobs. I just heard a comment about the Latinos taking over all the stores. None of the African Americans own nothing. But I was in Los Angeles. They own just about every business there. And they're 20 minutes later, they were right next to commerce. But what I'm saying, like you said, you got a negative and positive. You plug that in water, that's negative. If you plug it in direct current, you're getting something positive out of it. But Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was trying to bring the African American back to the reality that you can do for yourself with the will of God.
So eventually what you're saying in essence, what Elijah Muhammad was doing really was, he was, and we probably didn't know it at the time, he could have been reading Elijah Muhammad the prophet, peace be upon him. And we didn't even know it.
No, well, when God put a sign in front of you, you don't know it.
No, so evidently, if you see his works, somewhere along the line, he was really showing you who the real leader really was.
Correct.
Which is Muhammad the prophet, peace be upon him.
Correct.
Sonny, I'm going to ask you a question. What can we do to better our neighborhoods and community?
To better our neighborhoods and communities, a lot of work we have to do, come together. The men have to come together in unity. We have to step up and start doing our manly jobs.
Okay. Brother Jamal, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. As a matter of fact, too often we pay too much lip service. That's a lot of lip service. You know, you get a partner, I get tired of talking sometimes.
It's okay.
It's too much lip service. I remember when I hit the 10,000 men, I gotta admit, I've recently been changing my friends. I walked through that whole crowd to get to the end. There was only 4 people I knew out of all the people. That shows you it's time to redefine who you're with. Because the prophet also told us that you're going to be judged by the company you keep, right? So it's time to stop talking. It's time to stop hanging with talkers and swing with walkers.
Okay. I like that. Brother O'Shea, can you comment on that?
Oh, absolutely. I was there at 10,000. Man, congregation, if you want to call it that. What actually came out of that, we were there. We first met in neck. However, our faith helped us to hold on to our folks, and some positive things came out of that. So, like you said, but Steve, let me put it this way. An expression that some elderly people, you get tired of being tired. That's the way I am.
Thank you very much.
We're
going to have to take a commercial break, and we'll be right back in 3 seconds. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to El Islam in Focus. And we also have another invited guest. We'd like to welcome our brother Dawood. We'd like to welcome you on the channel. Very insightful man, very intelligent man with a lot of good information. We're going to start our discussion off again asking you, Brother Dawood, do you think that African Americans are lazy?
When you say African Americans, are you stating male, female, or as a group in general?
As a group in general.
Well, male or female, and as a group in general, I do not believe that the African American is lazy, because this country would not be the #1 country in the world had it not written on the back of the African American. So the black man invented the stoplight, the lawnmower, the oxygen breathing apparatus. First one to do an open heart surgery successfully. So, you know, when they say black man's lazy, that's not true. We're suffering from the after effects of a planned out deterioration of our mindsets by the slave masters, which is still ongoing. People do not realize that information is passed genetically, and some of those bad habits that were given to our foreparents are still with us, because they took away the father figure from the family and made the mother the matriarch, and that destroyed that unity. And you can't get anything done without family foundation.
Thank you for those comments. And O'Shea, do you have anything to say about that?
I'm in total agreement with what he's saying, and just to more or less add to it is that when we say the African American is lazy, no, in a sense, and it's not that I want to contradict myself, but I want to just say that when we become comfortable in a zone.
Well, let me ask you a question. Would you say lazy or negligent?
We're negligent. We're negligent because we can come out of this. We're basically walking around sleeping, even though our bodies are functional. We feel as though that what's been handed down to us is okay, and it's not okay, because we are suffering, our children are suffering, the community is suffering behind the negativity that surrounds us. So we have to kind of wake up that the consciousness that God has put in us to be able to see that what's wrong is wrong and what's right is right.
Okay.
And
I thank you for those comments, but I see a lot of hands raised in my peripheral vision. So, you had a question, Sister Mumina?
Yes, I do. It's no secret that public education caters to a certain culture and make little leeway for other cultures. Our children every day suffer identity crisis. How do we combat that?
How do we combat that?
Suffering identity crisis, well, first of all, to combat any problem that you have to identify the origin of the problem. And once again, it goes back, I'm not trying not to be redundant, but it goes back to the slavery thing. All our historical and cultural qualities were not allowed. I mean, the slave master purposely said, make sure that they don't speak their own language, make sure they don't practice their own religion, make sure that they don't maintain any of their historical records. Okay, so we have to garner that information and reestablish it with our children, and that will give them a foundation.
Okay, Brother O'Shea?
First off, tell the children the truth. We just got finished with the holiday, Christmas. We tell the children that a person's going to come down or go around the whole wide world in one day and deliver toys to them. That's false. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't even create the heaven and the earth in one day. So when you look at that, and then a couple of weeks from now, you'll be celebrating another holiday. Then the next month, you'll be celebrating Easter. So it's a continuous line that's constantly going around. And then when the children finally wake up and say, why are you telling me this? This is a lie. You know, so they question you, then you have a challenge within your own household. Tell the children the truth, and you'll find out there's going to be a great difference in your household.
Yes, I've seen another hand raised over with the sister. Any questions? I'm quite sure we have 7, 8, 9 sisters out in the audience. I know you have some concerns. Okay, maybe the sisters don't have no concerns. Any of the brothers? Any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
What's the answer? We have this identity crisis, but what's the answer? How can we get out of this thing? Is there one answer?
No, Brother Dawood.
Well, being that I am Muslim, the only conceivably answer I could come up with would be first to make sure that your children are educated in Islam, and that itself will give them a great foundation to be able to identify with themselves and the rest of the world. I mean, you know, that's the most simplest thing I can say. You know, but you have to teach people. You have to teach the youth while they're young. You can't just let them grow up.
Brother O'Shea, make a comment.
Once again, start off telling yourself the truth.
That's
then
right.
you can tell the children the truth. And when you begin to see the difference within your house and the community, Allah Akbar, because He's the greatest. He's the one that controls everything in the heaven and earth and all between. And when you come into the realization of that, your whole life will begin to change. I mean, when we look at our community and we look at all different facets, of our community, and we have a culture, a different culture. We accept and embrace all cultures because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He put us here to know each other. So we don't, and He also said that Satan is your enemy. So avoid that enemy as much as you possibly can. We're not perfect. We strive for the excellence. You know, I myself personally have stepped down trying to be perfect because I know I'm not perfect. And Allah tells us He's the only perfect. We are excellent. And we strive for the excellence that Allah has placed before us because we all have a path. When the death angel comes, he's coming for you. He's not coming for all. He's coming for you, and you're going to go in the direction that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained for you to go. And
You know what I'm saying?
go ahead.
I see another hand being raised out in the audience.
I have a question.
Yes.
It seems like there's a lot of things in our culture that's destructive. Our culture is rich with things like, you know, arts and history of music and so on, but there's things that plagued it that made it destructive, I would say, like hip-hop negative hip-hop that turns things, gives us an identity crisis because once you realize that you're listening to something negative, you don't want to be a part of that. Is there a way that we can clean those things up, these negative influences on our good culture that would help you find out who you are and help you develop yourself? What do you think about that?
Would you like to answer?
Well, I can say or suggest that we have to establish some type of programs that will educate, you know, our younger people. Because if you look at, and not being racist in any way, but if you look at all the different groups of people, the Jewish people, they more or less educate their own kids. The Chinese people educate their own kids. The Germans, the Polish, they make sure that their children are in educational pockets. So they make sure that they get their education. They don't just put them out in a system. And then we have to start doing that. And we also have to develop some type of adverse publication programs towards these negative hip-hop scenarios because those things are actually being done to cause disorganization amongst our community.
That's right.
Sister Rukmini, you had a question?
I was just wondering if there was such a thing as an Islamic culture, and if it was it a melting pot or a salad bowl?
Would you like to answer that, Brother Legere?
I'll leave it to you. That's
Go ahead, Brother Down.
Well, I don't know about a reference of the Islamic culture. I know that there's an Islamic, belief, and that's my foundation, and it's my life. It's what makes me who I am nowadays. Because I wasn't an angel, but now I'm just a hard-working Muslim, and I can say that I have traveled the world. I was in the military, and I've been around a lot of different Islamic cultures or Islamic people. And Islam does cause for a peaceful blending of all people. So, yes.
Yes, Muhammad.
Yes, I heard the brother say that Islam would do, we need to embrace Islam. Well, which Islam are you talking about, brother? Is he talking about the Shiites? Or are you talking about the Sunnis?
Right.
The Ahmadiyas?
Right.
I'm trying to figure out which brand of Islam we should subscribe to as people to get unity and alleviate our self-hatred.
Yeah, you're right. I was wondering about that too. But the Islam that we should embrace is following the Quran and the examples of Muhammad the Prophet, peace be upon him. And anything else, I don't even worry about it because I know with those two that I can't go wrong. We're going to ask for one more question from the audience, and then we're going to take a break. Yes, sister.
My background has always been working with youth. And I guess the question I want to ask is that when we go to the masjid and we do our Eid celebrations, how many brothers bring out a youth to the masjid? When I'm saying elderly brothers, so brothers period, over 21 years old, and you've been raised up into the mosque. I guess I can say that for sisters too. I guess the question is, do you feel it's a good idea that when you go to start up your car and you go to these Eid events, or you come out to the mosque on Friday, and say school is out, at that particular time, the public school, and you know these children do not have Islamic environment all the time. They may not go to a madrasa program. Do you think it's a good idea for men to say, you know what, let me bring my neighbor's child, or let me bring, you know, just my own son, or it could be a stepchild or what have you, but not just come to the mosque alone without, because I think if we grab these youth, this would be the answer to a lot of problems that we're having. And on the flip side of that, how do you feel about women and generally actually being on committees, organizing it? Like sometimes you'll be in a mosque and you may have the board of director and things of that sort, but it may be governed underneath a lot of brothers, but not so much of the sisters' input where they will bring the youth in. I guess I'm answering a question and asking a question, but I guess what I'm really trying to say is I don't hear us speaking on our youth, bringing them in as adult men or adult women to the mosque ourselves.
That's a good question. Brother Dowd, would you like to answer that question?
I would be more than glad to answer that. I refer back to the Nation of Islam. We had a program that when we came to the masjid or the mosque, we brought somebody. It was called fishing. We would stand out in the corner with our Muhammad speak, and we would talk to people, community people, and we would say, let's come to the masjid. And so when we came through the door, we were responsible to have at least one person. So we don't have that out in the street or in that street, again, that community network. And that's what we need. We need to have that community network again where we can talk to the youth. We see these youths that are born wild. You know, some of them you can't talk to, but we cannot say that they're incorrigible because it's not for us to judge. You know, so because we all have done wrong somewhere along the line ourselves.
Brother Dowd, we're going to let you have the closing remarks to that comment, and then we're going to close our segment, our program out.
Well, I can say from experience that here at Masjid Muhammad, we have engaged in community outreach. We have walked through the neighborhoods and passed out pamphlets. We have initiated programs that bring youth into the masjid, weights, training, exercise, different educational programs and events. We have been doing that. So, you know, to the sisters thing. And as far as the sister running committees and stuff, I do the security here at the masjid, and I 100% agree that the sisters should have a strong say-so in all the things that are going on in the masjid because they are very effective in getting things done.
We've got one more question. I see a gentleman, Brother Sunni, and the answer we want it to be really short.
Yes, sir.
Not a question, it's a comment. I was just, listening to everybody's comments, and, I was just going to throw out there, maybe if we was to adapt some of them old ways as of the Nation of Islam, the ways that we used to obtain to when our community was such stable and more unity, maybe we can adapt some of them ways. Maybe it'll help change a lot of these problems that we're having.
Okay, again, we'd like to thank our listening audience. We'd like to thank our panelists. It's been an honor for me to be able to sit up here with such distinguished men with great insight on humanity and the growth of humanity. I thank you, and we want to say on behalf of Al-Islam in Focus, if you'd like to make financial contributions or your donations, you can always send no money, send checks or certified checks or money orders. You can send them to Masjid Muhammad in care of Imam Jamil Abdullah. It will be greatly appreciated so that we can make sure that our programs continues to be on the air. Once again, we'd like to thank you. I'm Imam Jamil. You have been listening to Al-Islam in Focus from an African American perspective. Peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.